Hey, everyone. My name is Don. Welcome to Side Draft Media. With me, my co host Ryan. As always, we are breaking down everything from Homestead Miami and we are previewing everything Martinsville. We've got an exciting episode. We're covering at all points. Everything that you can think of that you want to know about NASCAR, we're about to talk about it. Ryan, start us off, bud. What do you got for me, man?
Oh man, exciting episode because we just had an action-packed weekend down in Homestead, Miami. And now we're going to fast forward to Martinsville with only 2 weekends left in the entire NASCAR schedule. It's just incredible what we just saw in all three series down in Miami, the trucks, the Xfinity, the Cup series. There was not a dull moment in any of this. There's just so much passing and so many lane opportunities. It makes you wonder, why is this not a championship race? Because wow. Now, we have to start off with the Craftsman Truck Series. They were the first ones on the track to run their race, and we saw nothing short of exciting. It was a race where playoff contending drivers were up towards the front of the field majority of the race, but at the end of the day, it was Grant Infinger who goes back to back and wins the race, just further cementing his incredible late season momentum.
Absolutely.
We saw Grant win at Talladega, which is a wild card race. It's a drafting track, right? Let's call it what it is. But when you show up at an intermediate track and you're able to go out there and perform the way they did, and contend against the likes of a Tricon truck and Corey Heim, who was extremely strong throughout the race, and was one of the guys we both thought was going to be there contending at the end for a win,
Right.
and and win that race. And it ends up being Grant Enfinger again who prevails. Very impressive to see this team surging like they are this late in the season, getting it done on the likes of a Talladega and then coming and closing the deal on an intermediate track, which I think is going to bode really well for them in 2 weeks when they get that chance to go out on November 8th and try to win a championship.
Absolutely.
Um,
Can
yeah, the end of this race though, was absolutely insane. You had your top five had Enfinger, Majeski, Connor Mozak, Corey Heim ends up finishing fourth, after having a really good truck all day. Tyler Ankrum rounding out the top five, and you know it, I feel like strategy really played into the end of this race, um, more so than I thought it was going to. And because if you look at how the early stages ended, like you had more playoff drivers bundled up in the top 10, top five. And just the way strategy worked out, it ended up cars stretching things out a little bit, trying to play with the fuel. And well, it worked out for Enfinger. Corey Heim just couldn't quite get there, finishing in P4. So they have to look into having a strong Martinsville. And we look at the standings, the playoff standings. Again, we know Grant Enfinger is locked in, and by math, he's the only one that is locked in to the championship four come Phoenix. So we have to look at these playoff standings and see who, what, when, where, because there is ultimately uh, two drivers, and there's the off chance that three of them have to point themselves in.
right.
But let's just say for exciting fan view, that two drivers have to point themselves in because we have a new winner. Then we look at the points and who can get in. And the only one I feel that has a remote chance of being safe by showing up is Corey Heim.
Right.
He's second in points, plus 49. So a good stage one. They should feel very comfortable about how their day plays out. and moving on to Phoenix to run for a championship themselves. Christian Eckes, excuse me, is third in points plus 38. And then you have Ty Majeski plus 22. Ty had a strong Homestead as well with that runner-up spot. But Raja Caruth is sitting there fifth in points minus 22. And there's no saying that he can't go down there in his Spire Motorsports truck with that Hendrick Alliance and go down to Martinsville, which is a track I feel like he potentially can have a very strong showing
Absolutely.
and take a win and take a spot away from the likes of a Heim Eckes Majeski. There's Taylor Gray on the outside looking in. He's 24 points below the cut line. Tyler Ankrum minus 41 and Nick Sanchez minus 43, not getting the results that they ultimately needed in Homestead. So I feel like those two trucks and teams know they have to go down to Martinsville and they have to win.
Absolutely.
Um, those are tough gaps to overcome, but by math, they are not eliminated. And by NASCAR rules, win and you're in. So,
Right.
there is a lot of jockeying for position as far as the point standings and playoff standings go in the Truck Series. That can happen this weekend. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Short track racing on the paperclip, as everybody calls it, and it's a tight track. You're in these trucks, especially. I feel like the brake package, how these trucks are able to handle in the turns and outbrake one another is going to make ultimately the difference. And then, of course, how you're getting out of, and launching out of those turns, as well.
Right.
Um, Don, who do you think? Who do you have advancing? Who's your winner this weekend? And
Man,
and who do you have advancing into the championship for in Phoenix for the Truck Series?
listen, the truck series always keep it exciting. There's never a dull moment. I know last year at Phoenix that they had a real rough go at closing out the season and it got hectic and so many guys just not making the best choices, towards the end of that season and at the final race. I don't think we see something as crazy here at Martinsville this weekend. I think we see it slightly more tame, but we're definitely going to see some exciting passes. We're going to see some exciting strategies. We're going to see guys do things that they wouldn't normally do, but that's what the pressure of the playoffs do. That's what the exciting part of the playoff format brings. It's putting guys in uncomfortable positions to go be the best you can be. And we see it across all three series. And as far as the trucks go, I'd really, really like to see Raja Cruz get that Hendrick truck just into the championship run. He's had a really good season. It'd be a lot of fun to see him chase a championship with some of these guys, with some of these veterans, and get his feet wet and really learn some valuable lessons moving forward. We know he's going to be a force to reckon with moving forward. It's just about if he can get it done now, and we're going to find out here this weekend. So definitely look for Raja to be a factor, and that's not counting out all the guys you mentioned. The Eckes, who's just phenomenal at short tracks. I believe he's got a win earlier this season at Martinsville, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
so definitely look for him to be at the front of the field throughout the entire race. He's so good at taking care of that truck and putting it in position to win. So the 19 truck, of course, the 11 truck, Corey Heim, the guy's got so many wins this season, and he's just
Hmm.
so talented at so many different facets of racing. Definitely look for Corey Heim to make the Final Four. Even if he doesn't have the best day, I still look for him to have a pretty solid day that gets him his position in the championship for which he deserves. I know he's hungry to fix how his season ended last year. I know he wasn't proud of himself for deciding to wreck Hocevar at the end of that
Hmm.
race, but he did the only thing he thought was necessary at that time. If I can't win this championship, then surely the guy that took me out of contention is not going to win this championship. And he made sure of that last year. So I definitely think Corey Heim's going to be someone we need to look at as far as being in the Final Four. And I think that's three. So it's really Grant Enfinger. The guy is just on a ridiculous run right now. Like you mentioned earlier, back-to-back wins. I don't see that slowing down. I see him putting that truck in position to be successful for him and his team and his sponsors. So give me Grant. You know what? I like that one. Obviously, he's already in the championship, but or wait, did Grant make Grant's hunting a championship, right? Or am I crazy?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. No, Grant is absolutely hunting a championship, and look for him to definitely be a force to reckon with tomorrow.
Yeah. You can't hate on it. I really you mentioned about Eckes and how he won in the spring. Um, he's somebody that I expect the BMR trucks, the Bill McElhaney Racing trucks, to absolutely be bad fast like they were in the spring.
Right.
Um, you know, eh, Tyler Ankrum as well as Eckes. To both be really good. Eckes had an absolute dominant spring race there. He won stage one, stage two, and ultimately the race. So, if you want to say he swept the stages, you could absolutely say that. He just had maximum points there in the spring, and uh, they started second and just were lights out. It's gonna
Right.
be hard to pick against a guy like that. And for those reasons, right? I mean, you just saw what he did in the spring, but the wick is dialed up, the competition level is dialed up this time of the year, and there's no saying that one of these other guys like a Raja Caruth can't come from below the cut. Raja ran seventh in the spring, and it's a track that he ran really well at.
Right.
Started 16th and finished seventh. That's pretty impressive, and I don't barring luck, having bad luck from other trucks ahead of him in the points. Um, I don't know if that would be enough to get it done and put him into the round of four. But I think that the truck's going to be very competitive this weekend, and you're gonna need some things to play out. Now, Nick Sanchez finished fourth. He's another one though. He's going to need either some misfortune from a truck ahead of him points wise. Um, and a lot of things to break his way. I really think he's a winning in truck. It's unfortunately, mired back there, buried, and there's just too many trucks ahead of you. But he finished fourth. He showed speed in the spring. There's just so many avenues that you could go. Now Ty Majeski finished second in the spring to Christian Eckes, and had a pretty strong truck throughout the stages in the race. So again, so many different ways that this an avenue that we can go. I mean, we know Grant's advanced. He's won the last two. He's in. I just think there's a lot of points there right now, cushion wise, for Corey Heim, who finished in the top 10 in the spring. I think Heim is competing for a championship as well. And I definitely believe, Eckes, who's plus 38, if he goes down here and just has a really strong stage one, stage two, he's in as well. So really, that fourth spot, right? Ty Majeski's in it right now. Do we get a new winner and possibly look at somebody else? Ty Majeski could be that new winner. Like I said, he ran really well here in the spring. It's just tough. It's really, really tough to think. I think the 11 and the 19 are going to be my favorites for the weekend, though. They both are hungry, and they both have been consistently um, just lights out this season. I mean, when it came to the points battles early in the season, it was those two. It was those two and everybody else fighting and jockeying behind them. The 11 and the 19. I'm gonna pick Corey Heim to advance for sure, but I think Christian Eckes actually sweeps Martinsville. He was just so good there in the spring, and it's hard to pick against that. So I'll take Eckes for the win. Um, Heim is my dark horse, although picking him as a dark horse seems silly. And my honorable mention, Raja Caruth. I have this hunch that the 71 is going to go down there, and you're going to get everything you got from these guys below the cut line. It's going to be a tight, exciting race Friday evening at Martinsville
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. Great picks. Can't argue it. Again, Raja is probably going to be my dark horse. I can't bet against the 19. Chances are they're bringing the same truck that just beat beat the crap out of this race in the spring. And there's no reason not to. That truck left that track almost in flawless condition. What else can you say? It's one of
Yeah.
those things where unless they give us a reason not to pick him, then I'm going to pick him. And he hasn't given me any reasons not to pick the 19 to win this weekend. So it's going to be exciting. I can't wait for it. Of course, always love me some truck racing. These guys always get after it, and looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. Now we fast forward to the Xfinity series, who will take the track on Saturday, at Martinsville. And they took to the track Saturday at Homestead. And wow, what a race we saw down there. It was a very, very exciting, um, you know, race as far as those passing opportunities and just so many lane options at Homestead. It's just an exciting race, and all three series delivered. There's just so much, so much passing and opportunities. At times, it was tough to it almost I don't want to say it looked like a plate race because there wasn't pack racing, but the lead changes. You know what I mean? Like the opportunities to get around your fellow competitor. You saw that at Homestead, and the race ended up with Austin Hill as the winner. Congratulations to the 21 team at RCR. Austin Hill getting it done on a non-restrictor plate track. And I know you just heard the emotion in the scanner when he was taking the checkered, getting really, really emotional, and how much this win means to him. It's the first time in his career that he gets the chance to advance to a championship four race and run for a championship in the Xfinity Series. We know he'll be joined by AJ Allmendinger, who locked himself in a week prior at Las Vegas. So you got the 16 and 21 already in. You look at how this race played out. The Double Zero and the Stuart Haas Racing crew showed up and showed out, and they were very, very fast down at Homestead as well. They were one that was definitely in contention throughout the day for a win. They end up just falling short at second. With one of my picks from this past weekend, Jesse Love finishing fourth. You picked Austin Hill as one of so congratulations. One of your picks getting across the line first. It's always exciting. But our hunches just have not been misguided that much this playoffs. With a few tweaks and surprises here and there, those RCR cars definitely showed up, and as they consistently have, like historically have at Homestead in the Xfinity Series. We were just spot on to that, and first and fourth for them. They are also both, one's Rice and Phoenix for a championship. Jesse Love is trying to get there,
Right.
and strong showing at Homestead certainly didn't hurt. Now, as far as your other playoff drivers, you go a little further back and you find Justin Allgaier, who finished eighth, Sam Mayer ninth, AJ Allmendinger, who's already advanced in 10th. It was a very exciting weekend, though. You saw a lot of passing, and like ultimately, as we said, Austin Hill, the guy advancing. Now we fast forward to Martinsville. It's again, a short track. Things change. Things are different here. This is not as fast. The handling and the braking zones and how you guys are able to get in and out of the turns respectively, and get to those braking zones, and who can outbrake who, and all those little nuances that short track racing brings, like Martinsville. It's a flat short track. Um, it's going to be exciting to see how this plays out. Now, right now, the way the points shake out, again, Austin Hill and AJ Allmendinger are locked in. So we got two spots open, and ultimately, you could either have a winner not in the playoffs, and I think that could be a possibility this weekend. So the drivers that are in win and in situations definitely have to show up, but we'll get back to that because Eric Amarola in the 20 car won in the spring. And if something like that were to happen again, you know, that has big detriment to the drivers who are voting for those final playoff spots.
Right.
Right now, the way the points shake out, in third is Justin Allgaier plus 35 above the cut. And fourth place is your defending series champion, Cole Custer, plus 28 against the cut line. And then Chandler Smith, minus 28, minus 35 is Jesse Love, minus 47 Sam Mayer, minus 95 is Sammy Smith. Well, I mean, that is a guy who is mathematically eliminated from pointing himself in.
Right.
He needs to win. Sammy Smith and that 8 team for Junior Motorsports is a show up to win weekend for them.
Right.
They have one goal: be fast and win the race. Yeah,
As far as Sammy
or
Smith, as far as Sammy Smith goes, I don't know that Sammy has that killer instinct in him yet. I think he's still kind of really learning the ropes, really utilizing every opportunity he gets to learn and get better. I don't know that he has that go out there and take it mentality yet. And I think that's why we won't see him advance this year into the final four. Not saying he's not capable of harnessing that kind of energy and going out and taking a race like this, but he hasn't shown us that killer instinct yet. So that might be something that keeps Sammy Smith under the line for me.
yeah, and I can't argue that either. The only thing I can say is that he's showing up with Junior Motorsports equipment, so he's going to have a fighting chance, right?
Right.
As long as that car comes off of the hauler and can have enough pace to compete, then he's not out of it
He's definitely not.
by by any means. But I get where you're going with that. Now they've obviously had some misfortune this round in the playoffs as well to be minus 95. But again, their backs are up against it. They know one goal, and it's been like that all week at the shop. One goal, show up and win.
Right.
That's it.
But
Um, and
but
and and, and
can I
no pressure, right? No
can I
pressure, right? But
you still got to go out there and beat your teammate Justin Allgaier, and I just don't. For Sammy Smith, I don't see that happening at Martinsville. That's just not for me personally. I don't see Sammy Smith, the driver, beating a driver like Justin Allgaier at a track like Martinsville. That's just you know kind of what we've seen so far. So
yeah, and like I said, I can't argue that, and it's not just him. I mean, he's got another teammate in Sam Mayer as well, and I just think Allgaier and Mayer have been better overall
correct.
than Sammy Smith. So if I had to pick one junior motorsports car to advance, obviously it's Allgaier right now who's got the cushion. But I mean, I would pick Mir over Sammy Smith as well at this moment. That's not where my picks are going, but I'm just math is math too. Yeah, I just don't. We could be putting our foot in our mouth if Sammy Smith goes out there and dominates this
That's
weekend.
why we
But
watch every weekend, my friend. That's why we watch.
yeah, so it's just, that's you're absolutely right. That is exactly why we win. But at the same time, it's not the route I'm going for this weekend as far as Sammy Smith is concerned, and that's
Right.
no shot against Sammy Smith or it just hasn't been there, and I just think this is the end of the road for them, unfortunately.
I would
Now we
agree.
look at these other guys, and again, two spots available. Um, if drivers are able to win and in, um, or if they have to point themselves in, again, there's two different scenarios that could play into this. If it falls into the avenue of having to point yourself in, say an Eric Amarola or a non-playoff contending driver wins this race. Um, I think that falls into the laps of a Justin Allgaier and a Cole Custer,
Absolutely.
because of those points cushions. Um, whereas, the Chandler Smiths, the Jesse Loves, the Sam Ayers, who could potentially point themselves in. And again, Sam Mayer would need some luck. Minus 47 is almost winning in.
Right.
You got two junior motorsports cars, in my opinion, my personal opinion, because of how these stages have played out, and you can't always boat on other drivers having misfortune.
Right.
Um,
Especially at this level, they're not. You can't, like you said, you can't hope for somebody else to have bad days. Yes, you'll get lucky and sometimes have bad day. People will have bad days and it'll benefit you, but
yeah,
that doesn't mean you're in. That doesn't mean you're safe. You got to go out there and take it. And to circle back around to Sammy Smith, I'm not beating a dead horse, but I just don't see him going out there and taking it from some of these guys. Not this year.
right. And again, can't argue that. And then I think if there's a chance on an outsider pointing themselves in, obviously Chandler Smith would be, and Jesse Love would be more in that striking zone. Minus 35 for Love, minus 28 for Chandler Smith. That is more doable.
Right.
But still gonna have your work cut out for you, because I know that Allgaier and Cole Custer are gonna show up with, you know, their best foot forward as well. It's exciting to see how it plays out. So, Don, I'm going to put the ball in your court. And who do you think maybe takes this win this weekend? And if it's a non-playoff driver, then who do you have pointing themselves in?
The Xfinity series is always just leaving us on the edge of our seats with who's going to make it, who's going to advance, who's going to be cut out. And man, I've got Chandler Smith as my pick to make the Final Four, and he's still got a chance to do it here this weekend in Martinsville. But I think that someone like Cole Custer, I think that he's been kind of sitting back and now he's like, enough is enough. I'm going to go out here and get this done. So I'm going to have to go with the 00, especially with how talented and gifted he is at short tracks, to go out there and put on a really good show for everyone and win his way to Phoenix next weekend. As far as who else makes it, I mean, goodness, you got your Allmendinger in, you got your Austin Hill in. It's hard to bet against Jesse. It's hard to, man. You just leave me speechless, and I just don't even know. Especially with a track
It's
like
hard.
where so many of these guys are so talented and just show the ability to win and be successful each and every weekend. Man, I guess if I had to pick the last one, I got to go with Allgaier. He's having a really great season. I know he wants to make up for a couple of hiccups that have happened here in the playoffs. And he's very capable of going out there and snagging a checkered flag this weekend. I don't think we see Eric Almirola go out there and shake things up. I think these playoff drivers are going to make sure that their noses are out front first before allowing anybody to affect their possibility of hunting a championship. And I'm not saying they're going to wreck them, but I definitely think they'll be a little bit more aggressive of getting some of these guys out of the way so that they're the ones dictating the outcome of this race and not a non-playoff driver.
Right. And I can certainly see that as a possibility as well. But again, um, when you have 38 teams showing up, that's 38 potential winners, right? That's the way you got to look at it. And somebody's got to win this race. And I too am looking at a junior motorsports car, and I'm just going to tell you that I think that this one mixes things up. He finished second in the spring, and he's on the outside looking in right now. And I think Sam Mayer might shock. It might. I believe it would be a surprising win for some people
For
for
some,
Sam Mayer to come out and leapfrog and potentially knock either the defending series champion in Cole Custer or his teammate and Justin Allgaier out of the race. Now,
right.
I do want to throw out there that in the spring, you had an Austin Hill and an AJ Allmendinger, both drivers who are locked in, thankfully, in their eyes, probably. They had DNFs in the spring. So, if they were to have a role reversal here, and you have one of those two up in the top four in points that aren't locked in, like an Allgaier or a Custer, that opens the door for a lot of things to change. And just looking how this race played out in the spring, uh, if you take Amarola out of the picture, Sam Mayer is your winner, and Chandler Smith, another playoff driver, right behind him. So second and third for them in the spring. Allgaier was fifth. Those cars are going to be strong. Sammy Smith, who we just said had to win to get in, he finished seventh, and Cole Custer was eighth. So and Jesse Love was right behind him in ninth. A lot of these playoff drivers that are there, that are all fighting and clawing for two positions that are not locked in yet. I believe it's going to be a tight bunch. You're going to have a lot of playoff drivers in the top 10 when this thing's all said and done with. And it's just going to be a matter of who wins that race off of pit road, or who was able to get a great restart on a late caution. I just feel like this is that race that's going to set up for something like that. What pit crew gets it done? Now you mentioned your Cole Custer. um, I would tell you that it would be incredible for them to go out and win a race that, as a team, they had the last 2 weeks beforehand, Vegas and Homestead circled, because those were the two that they wanted to go out and get it done at, right?
Right.
But they have the capability of doing that and going out and winning at a Martinsville.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't have been their preferred track, obviously, but they also have the pit crew to go out and get one of those late race, positions. They have one of the best pit crews in the Xfinity series. Shout out to those guys who've just been lights out all year for Cole Custer. They've made a
Championship
big,
winning crew.
yes, championship winning pit crew, and they're here trying to back it up. I mean, it's a big reason why they went out and they won Bristol. It's and got that regular season championship. Like, that those things matter when it comes into putting it all on the table.
Absolutely.
But I think Sam Mayer is one of the guys I think that can go out and get it done. As far as a dark horse is concerned, if I had to pick a dark horse, it's going to be Cole Custer. And I just say him as a dark horse because this wasn't the track that they preferred to go and do it at. But
Right.
I definitely think that they could go out and have a solid day. And guess what? If they go out there, have a solid day, get stage points, and finish eighth like they did in the spring, they're on to Phoenix. Um, Now, if you recall back to last year, they had to sweat it out at Martinsville to get onto Phoenix.
Right.
So hopefully, for their sake, and their championship bid to repeat, it's not as stressful as a day for the Double Zero crew. But let's just call it what it is. Right now, there's six hungry drivers that want to go out there and have a chance to run at Phoenix. And I think it's going to be a stress-filled race for those six cars
Absolutely.
that are still trying to lock themselves in.
I mean, it's fair to say that the fans are getting stressed out too. I mean, we see on social media how much it means to the fans to see their favorite drivers win and move on, or have a great race and have enough points to move on. So you talk about the pressure of the fans, but these guys inside these race cars and behind the pit boxes, man, they are feeling it. They got the weight of the NASCAR world on their shoulders, and they got to go out there and perform and get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be exciting to see how it plays out. And speaking of playing out, wow, and we're 30 minutes into this show, and we're now getting to the Cup Series,
Right.
and that's just because how much is on the line for these other series too. It's just as important, but how it played out at Homestead, Miami for the NASCAR Cup Series is what sets the table up for not only an exciting championship race, but an exciting Martinsville race for this cut to get in. Uh, Homestead, we had seen the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series put a lights out show with exciting finish, but the cherry on top was on Sunday because it does not get any more exciting than three lead changes in 2 laps. Unreal. Unreal. Three different drivers leading in 2 laps to shoot out and say who's going to go. And guess what? All three of those drivers were not in any way, shape, or form safe and locked in to this next round of the playoffs, the championship four. And hats off to all three of those cars for racing each other clean, respectful, and going out and just putting on a show for these fans. Ultimately, though, it was the nasty beast himself. That's just going to be his new nickname, right? He's turning out
He's
to
a
be
nasty beast, man.
his moniker can be his sponsor. Is his sponsor. He took his orange sunrise nasty beast Toyota Camry and parked at P1 with an incredible last lap pass. Tyler Reddick, congratulations to him. The 45 crew, 2311 Racing, they get to go fight in Phoenix for a championship and left Ryan Blaney absolutely dejected. Denny Hamlin shaking his head as a driver, now as an owner. After things, the post race emotions calm down because he's upset he didn't win the race himself. He gets to celebrate, for his team that he owns with Michael Jordan.
Right.
But what an incredible race we saw. There's been times where fans will be in the comment sections all over after a race and say that there's just not enough passing, there's just not enough of this. Well, Homestead did not disappoint. There was evident of 3 to 4 lanes where you could put your car and make it work and
Absolutely.
kind of set up the drivers. And Tyler Reddick did just that. On the lap prior with 2 to go, he goes underneath Denny Hamlin and is able to carry his momentum to clear him. And when it comes time on the last lap, to set up for a pass against Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney takes that third lane away from the wall because he probably is thinking, well, I just saw Reddick and my spotter just saw Reddick go low on Hamlin and carry so much momentum and was able to clear him that there's no way he's going up top. And if he does go low, I want this lane so we can pinch him down, right? It didn't work out that way because he went there and Reddick just carried his absolute momentum and throttled around on the top lane and just drove away from him. I mean, it was insane. The amount of momentum that you can carry through the corners in these tracks if you set it up properly. And then he had Ryan Blaney guessing, is he going to go low? No, he went high. By the time he got there, it was too late to do anything about it except wreck both cars. So clearly Blaney's not going to do that. And Tyler Reddick wins. Martinsville. How this plays out? Well, here you go. Tyler Reddick and Joey Logano are the two cars we know that will be in Phoenix to fight for a championship. Who we got left? Well, Christopher Bell plus 29. He just had one of those methodical Christopher Bell days at Homestead.
Right.
He had a good car. He had a decent amount of pace, had a strong finish. He's plus 29 going into Martinsville, where in his words said is going to be an all-out war. He's not wrong. We know what we're getting here at Martinsville. And he's in that mix too, because at plus 29, he's not safe.
Correct.
And
Could go bad. He could have something go wrong very early and really just have him stressing out for the next 3 hours. So
yeah, yeah,
no means is Christopher Bell safe.
no, not at all. In fourth place, 7 points above the cut line is William Byron, your Daytona 500 winner. Starts the season off with a bang. What can he do this weekend? Now 7 points below the cut line is his teammate Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, he's a champion in this series, and just a guy who we've seen have playoffs not go his way. For if he's not winning and dominating, it's either just things that I feel like in some cases are in his control. He just had an absolute bad Homestead. There was just all these different aspects of, a flat tire early to spinning himself out later, trying to make a pass. Kyle Larson's an aggressive driver. He owns that. He wears that right here on his sleeve, and it's part of what makes him successful. But it's also at sometimes an Achilles heel for him. And we'll see how that shakes out for him at Martinsville, where he's below the cut line and has to get something out of Martinsville and out of that car to advance to run for opportunity to win his second championship. You have Denny Hamlin. Again, we just spoke. He had a good race, finished third. He's 18 points below the cut line. He's really eaten up a lot of the point deficit that he was below the point line. I think Martinsville is a track, and we'll get back to him, that bodes well for him and a chance to get a chance to run for a championship. Ryan Blaney, I feel like, is in win now mode. 38 points below the cut line, even after a second place finish and a good showing at Homestead, just wasn't enough. And I feel like is going to need either a lot of luck on his side to point in, or he at this point win in. And then definitely win in my opinion, is in eighth place is Chase Elliott, 43 below the cut. Now, again, we can't say mathematically that any driver is eliminated um, because of how these stage points are awarded.
Right.
And because of a comment like you just said, if Christopher Bell has something go bad early, or if a William Byron has something go bad early, that opens the door for a lot of opportunities for these other drivers that are fighting for a spot to get in and win this race, or finish and strong enough to get into the championship four.
Right.
So that being said, Don,
You're gonna
I
do
got
it to me again.
I got to pass it back to you again. What do you got? Because I have a feeling that we're going to have some similarities here. But who do you have as your winner, your dark horse, and who's getting into go race against Tyler Reddick and Joey Logano in Phoenix in 2 weeks?
The NASCAR Cup Series answered a lot of questions for everybody this last weekend, especially as far as the quality of racing goes. A few times this season, we've heard people with the opinion of you can't pass, or that's just not good racing, or these guys are aero blocking and nobody can do anything. Well, Homestead proved that if you want it bad enough, you can go out there and get that car to do what you want it to do. Now, obviously, every track's built different and every car is going to react differently at the given track that they're at. But the capability of these cars is there, right? So
Right.
let's just give the next gen and what the car on the track produced this past weekend for fans to enjoy. We're talking about, other than Joey Logano, which we know, excuse me, I'm sorry, which
No
we
worries.
know Joey Logano was frustrated with his car, but he was locked in. So he kind of just stayed out of the way, kind of let the race just play out the way it needed to play out. And he didn't force any issues. And he just got that 22 home in one piece. But the other 7 playoff drivers were in the top 10 almost the entire race. What more can you ask for as far as a playoff setup, as far as wanting to know who the best of the best is? All of these guys that have earned their way into the round of 8 are now fighting for the win in the round of 8. Like that doesn't happen by accident. Those are the best of the best this season getting after it. Okay.
Right.
Now we look forward to Martinsville being the battle zone that it can be. You're going to see your Denny Hamlins up front. You're going to see your Christopher Bells up front, your William Byrons, your Chase Elliott's. Know that we're going to up front. I think they're going to be pretty good about minding their P's and Q's and kind of staying out of the way. And they don't want to make any unnecessary enemies heading into Phoenix next week. So they probably kind of mind their P's and Q's and just get their race cars back to the shop in one piece. As far as the race goes, we saw, man, the way Ryan Blaney got out of his race car this past weekend at Homestead. He is a champion. I think he's going to approach Martinsville with just the utmost confidence that he can go out there and win this race, much like all the other drivers. Everybody's going to go out there. They're not going to get in the race car and don't think they're going to win. But I think Ryan Blaney approaches it just a little bit more personal, especially after the way he lost Homestead this past weekend. I think the 12 car and Penske gets another car into the Final Four. Look for Ryan Blaney to win at Martinsville tomorrow. As far as my dark horse, I'm going to go the opposite end of the spectrum and say Chase Elliott, because Chase Elliott is a very capable driver of going out there, getting it done, and ultimately putting a Hendrick car in the Final Four, which I know if anybody who's familiar with our show and has watched previous episodes, Ryan liked to say that he didn't think a Hendrick car was going to make the Final Four. The odds of that happening are pretty slim, but not impossible for that to be spoken into existence. And I think at the beginning of September, that was something you did. So it's really interesting to see the Hendrick guys struggling as much as they are. But as far as Chase Elliott, I think maybe he turns a little bit of a corner this weekend and parks that car into victory lane and ultimately getting him a spot in the Final Four. And as far as the 5 team and Kyle Larson, it just something seems off with them here lately. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's a confidence thing. We haven't seen Kyle Larson run out of confidence ever, but he was definitely frustrated and agitated in the middle of this Homestead race. He was not very happy with the car. He said that you barely scrub the wall and you scrape the diffuser and you can't race anymore. But he proved himself wrong when he fought his way back into contention again. Ultimately, he wrecked himself out or spun out off the fender of Blaney. He put his 5 car in a position that it didn't feel comfortable in, and he wasn't able to hold on to it. But as far as the 5 car goes, I think they might get in their own way this weekend. I think the pit crew is struggling with a little bit of confidence. So we're just gonna have to keep an eye on that 5 crew. But something just doesn't seem right for me to put them in the Final Four after what we've seen here the last couple of weeks. But man, I'm really interested in what you think. Who's going to win this thing, and ultimately who's going to make the Final Four for you, bud?
Well, I mean, you mentioned about September. I dropped that hot take, and even an industry expert in the sport, in Dakota Ratcliffe, said, "Wow, that's a hot take. Roll
Right.
with it." In a conversation that we had with him, and I the stats were there to prove why I thought a Hendrick car may not make the Final Four and race for a championship. And I mean, it easily could have happened a year ago if some races didn't break their way to where they go and win races. Well, in this particular round, they haven't done that. So here we are with Hendrick cars currently sitting um, 1+7 and 1-7. And, you have Chase Elliott -43. And, we got two spots that are open. If Christopher Bell were to go out and have a really solid day and um, rack up the stage points that he needs to feel comfortable in advancing, then we really are talking about one open spot here for one of those five other cars. And that's where things get interesting because I'm going to I made the bed, I'm going to live in that, and I'm going to stay firm on saying that a Hendrick car does not get in this weekend. Now I could easily be putting my foot in my mouth because I know this and I'm a realist. Okay, Hendrick Motorsports is historically really strong at Martinsville, and they showed it this past spring. I know that this past spring was a special race for them. They were all in their special paint schemes,
Right.
and a Hendrick car won and William Byron. Matter of fact, they took the top three positions: Byron, Larson, Elliott, in that race, and that's great, right? I mean, but that's the spring. It's early in the season, and I don't want to say it doesn't matter because obviously every race matters, but it doesn't matter like this one does. There and the level of I feel like I mentioned earlier in this episode about the wick getting dialed up, right? The temperature's hotter now, and I mean on the track, not outside the air temperature. I mean the on track temperature is hotter. It matters every single lap, every single position. Uh, it matters for these playoff drivers, and the aggression levels I feel like are going to be higher. I feel like there's going to be feathers that are ruffled. This could set up to be that good old fashioned short track racing where people get out of their car at the end of the day and they're mad at one another or they're mad at themselves for a mistake that they made. And I definitely see a path to where the bet I made holds true and comes to fruition. Of course, we look at the statistics from the spring race, and again, I could be absolutely wrong because a Hendrick car is certainly capable of going out and winning this race. So Hendrick Motorsports fans, if you're a fan of one of their drivers, don't hate me too hard. Okay, I know what I'm saying as far as and this is not coming from a hate-filled place. As I'm not hating. I'm just stating the facts that it very well could happen. Now, if you look at the driver averages that go into this weekend, the best driver on the track the last 7 races at Martinsville is a guy, Don, that you thought is going to stay out of the way and not really try to ruffle the feathers of those other two because they got bigger fish to fry at Phoenix, and that's Joey Logano. Joey Logano has an average finish of 5.7. Now, he doesn't have a win in the last 7 races, but he's been very consistent with top fives and top tens and has led some laps. But somebody that we need to speak of is his teammate Ryan Blaney, who is average finish of sixth. Obviously, we know he has a win here because he won last fall when his back was up against the wall to
Right.
get that chance to go run for a championship in Phoenix, which we know the outcome of that. And he is a defending series champion. And, the top fives, the top 10, the laps led, dude's been really good here.
Absolutely.
Really, really good here. Your dark horse pick is a little further down this list. I mean, you got William Byron who won here in the spring. He's won here actually twice in the last 7 races. This is a William Byron track, and again, that's why I know I could be absolutely wrong about not having a Hendrick driver in the Final Four at Phoenix, but um, I can see it happening because just of how these points are shaped up right now. If you got a driver coming from below to cut to win, and you got Christopher Bell handling his business, then Christopher Bell points himself in. He has a better cushion on those other drivers. So, I look at the winning in, right? The winning in situation right now. Um, Christopher Bell handles his business. One of the other drivers has to win an in. If you're not William Byron and already above that cut line and winning the race, then who is it? Is it a Kyle Larson? Is it Ryan Blaney? Because Ryan Blaney wins, guess what? He's knocking out William Byron if Christopher Bell goes and handles his business.
Right.
If Denny Hamlin goes and wins, he's knocking out William Byron, who, so
All that does is push the rest of the points further down when
right.
drivers that are below the cut line and below your driver in the cut line, when they leapfrog, that makes it even more difficult for your driver to point his way in.
Right. And so with me already saying I made my bet, I'm going to lie in it. I'm not picking a Hendrick car this weekend, and rightfully so. Even before that, as soon as Homestead ended, I knew who my two favorite drivers were for this weekend, and guess what? They're both below the cut line right now, and that is Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney. And in my opinion, it's going to come down to one of those two drivers that are going to win this race. And I believe that it's going to be a final four of Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, and drum roll please, Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin was one of my picks to run for a championship. When we did a championship for preview weeks ago when the playoffs started, and I'm going to stick with my gut on this one. This is a track that bodes extremely well for Denny Hamlin. He's super good here. If you look at also just short tracks in general this year. Let's see. You ready? Let's go down the running order here. I know it wasn't for points. I know it wasn't for points, but he won the Clash at the LA Coliseum this year. It's a flat paperclip, shorter paperclip than Martinsville, but he won it, and he won it. With very convincing car. He was very fast out there.
Right.
You fast forward a few weeks to Bristol. He won that race. Now I know there was that engine thing, and we don't need to talk about that. But on track, he's good at the short track.
Right.
Fast forward, a little bit more. Now I know it's a mile. It's a mile long, uh, and it has more banking and carries more speed. But
Dover.
you could look at Dover. Okay, you could look at Dover. He was really good there. And just you go down and look at the short track package that JGR has, which is another reason why I feel like Christopher Bell is going to be fine and point himself in, handle his business. The short track package has been good. Oh, by the way, Denny Hamlin won at Richmond this year. So there's not both of the Richmond races. We know how the other one played out, but he was in contention. He was in contention for that win had it not played out the way it did. But the Denny Hamlin spring win at Richmond was a legit win. So
Right.
we have to look at that and play into how that team, the 11 team, has performed on the short tracks. I feel like minus 18, he can find a way to point himself in, and he can win himself in.
Three,
I feel,
three Toyotas is ballsy, man.
and better yet, let's talk about this. If a Hendrick car does not get into the championship four, that also means that Chevrolet is not in the championship four.
Isn't that weird?
That is also
Yep.
pretty crazy to
That's
say.
crazy.
That it could either be two Fords and two Toyotas, or it could be one Ford and three Toyotas.
Right.
Both of those are legitimate scenarios, and I think that is the scenario. I really do. I really like Blaney this weekend too. I mean, if the 11 car isn't the winner, I think that the 12 very much can be. It's a track that bodes very well for Ryan Blaney, and but yeah, I am, and anybody who knows me, obviously we do this and understand that we have influence as being media or professionals that are in the sport or attached to the sport. So we always try to show a level of unbiased. But
Right.
anybody who knows me knows that Denny Hamlin's not always my first pick, right? So and it's not often that I do pick him. I tend to go other avenues because I've seen Denny Hamlin just not perform when it mattered in the playoffs. But I just seen something the last couple weeks and how they've been chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. And as long as the race plays out to where they don't have misfortune from somebody else, Denny Hamlin at the end of this race is going to be voting for a win. Okay, it's not, and he's going to be there. He's going to be in contention. I think it's going to be between the 11 and the 12. Dark horse favorite, whatever you can call it. I'm leaning Denny Hamlin over Ryan Blaney. So yeah, I'm going to say three Toyotas and one Ford at Phoenix to win a championship. And I also think that no Chevys and no Hendrick cars. I'm sorry, guys, that are bow tie fans and Hendrick Motorsports fans. I know I can get a lot of hate for that, but it's just I feel like how it's going to shape out, and I can argue the stats show that it also can very much happen.
Right. The only thing I'd have to say about Denny Hamlin, and obviously he's very capable of winning at this track. One thing that I heard on another NASCAR podcast, just so happens to have Denny Hamlin as a host. It's it's been 3,500 days since he's won at Martinsville. Now, roughly, that gives us about 10 years, I would say, since Denny Hamlin has taken a checkered flag at that racetrack. That's an incredible stat. I don't think that, and Denny Hamlin's a great pick. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that another driver prevents Denny Hamlin from winning this race. I think maybe his pit crew, and I want to circle back to this episode after the weekend, because Hamlin's pit crew has been known to make some pretty costly mistakes at the worst possible time for Denny. And so that's the only reason I'm saying that Denny's not going to find himself in victory lane. I think he finds himself in trouble on pit road, not by his own doing and not because the team isn't capable of performing at a high level, but it seems to always happen at the worst possible time for Denny. So if Denny doesn't make it out of Martinsville and headed to the championship for Phoenix, that's where I would assume that it's going to happen is pit road.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, historically speaking, when it's come to these bigger races, when it mattered, and getting him that opportunity to go run for a championship, it's always been something of that sort. It's been a either an on track incident
Right.
or something on pit road. And and um and we've seen the pit road issues, and even when there's been other races where he was in contention to win, and it works out to where he didn't. And I'm not just talking this year, saying historically,
Right.
it's been pointed at the pit crew. But
Right.
yeah, I'm just not feeling that this weekend, and the statistics don't lie either. I mean, this 11 car is just good here. I know it's been a long, long time since he's won here, and a matter of fact, I'll give you the date. It was March 29th of 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, that he
10
won
seasons.
here. Yeah, it was 19 races ago. So this will be 19 Martinsville races ago.
Right.
Um, but there was a time where when he unloaded, you expected him to win here. I
Right.
mean, he just rattled off wins here for a while, and um, yeah, and anybody saying we're talking about Denny too much, well, guess what? He's one of the five fighting for one of those final four spots, and you can't come into Martinsville and not talk about Denny Hamlin.
Right.
He's going to be a factor until he's not.
Right.
So,
He's
and
in the playoffs. He's been
yeah,
below that cut line a couple times this season, and he's found himself into the next round. Into the next round. Do we see that again heading into Phoenix?
right, yeah, he seems like he's been playing from behind the eight ball this entire playoffs too,
Right.
this entire playoffs.
And
So
especially
why not? Why
having
not
such
now?
a good season, for having such a good season, to see him kind of limp through the playoffs the way he has. Listen, if Talladega doesn't go different and 25 cars don't take themselves out of contention and Denny Hamlin drives by with popcorn in his lap, like we're probably not talking about Denny in the playoffs right now. So, it's just one of those things where a little bit of luck had to happen for him, and it did. Now, what's he going to do with it now that he has it?
Right. Absolutely. Sometimes you're good and sometimes you're lucky and sometimes it's a little bit of both. That's
Right.
racing. That's
That's what
racing.
it was.
And I'm excited to see how it shakes out. And I really think that I can live by the comment I also made, that this is going to be a race at the end of the day. there's going to be a lot of drivers that are upset either with themselves or somebody else on this track, because there's just so much on the line. And quite honestly, as good as the 20 car has been this season, if they don't have a mishap where they hurt themselves, it's going to be hard to think that they don't point themselves in.
Right.
That is, if they don't go out and win the race.
Right.
You
Which
know, and
they're
then
capable of doing.
yes. So I mean, you can't discount you can't discount that either. And I know that every driver that is in the hunt for these last two spots to go to Phoenix, knows, like Christopher Bell says, it's going to be an all-out war, um, on pit road, on the track. Nobody's going to give anything to anyone, especially those playoff drivers. And if you're going to want to pass them, you're going to really have to earn it.
Right.
And I don't care. I don't care who it is. And your picks. The Chase Elliott pick. I mean, listen, he finished third here in the spring. That's not a bad pick. And any of the Hendrick cars is not a bad pick. I can see a path that tells me that they're not there,
I
and
think
because of that 7+7 is just not good enough.
right. I think because the rest of the field is catching up to what Hendrick Motorsports has accomplished through the years. And I think the Gen 7 really helped with that to balance out some of these other teams that have been playing catch up for so long. Hendrick
Mhm.
is finally finding themselves in a situation where, oh my gosh, we're not the dominant Yankees anymore. And I know the Yankees just lost the World Series, but they were still,
They're
the
still there.
top echelon of sports, right? So it's really interesting to see how that they as a team handle that adversity because they're used to dominating so much every single year, and now they're in a situation where all three of them can miss the champ. I say all three. Alex Bowman's already found himself out of the playoffs,
Mhm.
but the remaining three Hendrick drivers finding themselves without an opportunity to race for a championship next week. It's very, very likely.
Very, very likely. And I'm just so excited for this race. I can't wait to see how this all plays out. I know we're all going to be living on the edge of our seats this weekend from the race fan perspective. I I, I just I can't believe there's 2 weeks left in the season, Don, and that this is set up how it is to where you have two drivers that can technically. I mean, again, I don't think a non-playoff driver wins this race.
Right.
It very well could happen. If I had to pick, if I had to pick a non-playoff driver to win this race, um, there's one or two that come to mind, and I'm sure. Yeah, I see the smirk on your face, and one of them's the one car of Ross Chastain.
Ross.
He seems to always. Well, I mean, aside from his last lap heroics to advance to a championship race, with the Hail Melon. I want to make sure I say it correctly. He always just seems to be one of those guys, and that team always seems to rise to the occasion to play spoilers to others.
Right.
And we saw it in the championship race last year at Phoenix,
Yep.
where it was the first time a non-playoff driver won the championship race. So you can't discount that, and the chance of a Ross Chastain going out there. They certainly seem to be one of those teams that could go out there and maybe ruffle feathers. And I could shout out another one. They finished fourth in the spring, extremely good at Martinsville, and actually won his first ever Craftsman Truck Series race at Martinsville. Would be the 23 Bubba Wallace. It's one of two races left for Booty Barker on top of the pit box, as Bubba's crew chief. Who's to say they're not throwing all everything that they have at this race and trying to go out there and win, especially knowing that they don't have to worry about taking away from their teammate and Tyler Reddick, who's locked into Phoenix next week. That's something that could be a capability. We talked about Hendrick drivers, right? What if Alex Bowman goes out and wins this race, and doing so makes it to where one of his teammates can't get into that next round? Be
It's
interesting
very
to see how
possible.
that team racing works out then, right? Because wow, could that be plausible? But I just and then you got a guy like Kyle Busch, right? And I'll throw his name into the mix too, because that's a team where their short track stuff hasn't been the greatest, but that's a team who Kyle Busch is up against it, who would it mean more to? You posed this question, so I'll let you ask it. Go ahead, take it out of my mouth, put it in yours. Who would it mean more to?
Something I was curious about a few weeks ago, and I threw it out there, was who would a win in 2024 be more beneficial to their career? Would it be Kyle Busch in the 8 car for RCR, or would it be Bubba Wallace finding those winning ways again with 2311? He's had two very consistent seasons. He made the round of 12 last year without a win. That's very, very difficult to do, right? Like
Right.
he made the round of 12 and was in position to make the round of 8 if he had I mean, he was just mere points from making the round of 8 without a win. That doesn't
Mhm.
happen by accident, guys. Whether you like a driver or not, that doesn't happen by accident. So a win for Bubba Wallace in 2024 and finally ending that streak. It's over 2 years now since Kansas in 2022 when he won in that 45 root car. And then you look at Kyle Rowdy Busch. His fans have gone through the absolute grinder this year. We're talking about almost winning at Atlanta, the second race of the year, and they've got their playoff bid taken care of. They ain't got to worry about it the rest of the season, to losing by 0.003 of a set, right? Less than that's how close Kyle Busch came to not only adding to his streak of consecutive seasons with a win, to going the rest of this entire season. We're talking about 32 races have gone by since that Atlanta race in February, March, and he hasn't got a win. So I don't know who would benefit more. I know that it would mean just the absolute world to both drivers to get a win in 2024. You bring up Bubba Wallace and ruffling some feathers. How does that go for Denny Hamlin? And Bubba Wallace goes out there and says, "La la la, I'm just going to go get this win," and that pushes that just kind of makes it a little bit more difficult for that number 11 car to find himself into the playoff or into the
Right.
championship four.
Right, and I'll give you one more on the flip side of that because we talked about 2 drivers on who does it mean more to. Well, there's another one who announced that he's retiring at the end of the season and is gonna be running some limited races next year as we've learned, but Martin Truex Jr. is another driver who's capable of going out and winning this race at Martinsville, and
Absolutely.
that 19 team and Martin Truex Jr. won it just as bad as those other guys out there.
Absolutely.
So I mean, and I feel like this is a race that they would much rather go and try to win than get in the way of the guys who are absolutely running for a championship next weekend in Phoenix. But again, every guy and every driver out there, man and women, whatever, has an opportunity to go out and win. They're going to certainly do it and take it, and they don't care who it's against. That's
Absolutely.
just racing. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, if it is a non-playoff driver, it could be one of those handful of drivers that we just spoke of. But I really feel like you're going to see a lot of the playoff drivers just bunched up here in the top 10, top 15 most of this race,
Right.
obviously trying to get stage points. And I'll tell you what, if you unload slow here, or if the handling's just not where you need it to be, you're going to be and a big bundle of hurt because there's not as much you can do on these cars on the track.
Right.
Come race time to get it right. And if you just don't have that pace, you can see you can see your potential playoff implications for a championship just go by the wayside. And again, I'm so excited to see how this is going to play out. Um, at the end of the day, I really don't think it's going to be a non-playoff driver winning, and that's why I think it is going to be one of Denny Hamlin or Ryan Blaney that do get this win. But if I had to pick somebody else to win, it might be a Truex, a Bubba Wallace, one of those kind of like surprised but not surprised type of drivers that or Ross Chastain, like it very well could happen too. So that's why we tune in. That's why we watch, and then we're gonna have a heck of a week going into championship weekend, which we have some surprises in store, for ourselves and the viewers, everybody who's tuned in and supported us either on here or throughout social media and follow, like, comment, whatever on all our stuff. You're gonna want to stay dialed in because we got a lot of stuff going down this week for our futures as well. So it's exciting. that we get to be a part of NASCAR silly season also.
Absolutely. We got some great things coming up. We've got interviews galore coming up. It's all just, I'm having a blast with it, Ryan. I love talking racing with you. I love engaging with the fans on social media and getting their thoughts and feelings on who's going to win and who's going to, who's going to end up where, and whatever conversations are taking place. It's just fun to have a platform for us to all enjoy and do this. One other thing I wanted to mention before we shut this one down is, how do you think a Monday morning meeting would go at Hendrick Motorsports if Alex Bowman and the 48 take a grandfather clock back to the shop? I think Alex Bowman calls in on Monday morning. I think the grandfather clock shows up in his little section of the shop, and I think we see crickets, because that will absolutely decimate that shop if the 48 car goes out there and wins. That's gonna. We were talking about is Alex Bowman safe earlier in the season. If he goes out there and plays spoiler, man, he's gonna be hurting. That's for sure. But
Well, I think it all depends too on where those other cars are on the track
absolutely,
when it comes time. But at
absolutely,
the end of the day, he's got his own sponsors to fight for a win for, especially after getting DQ'd from the playoffs the way they did. So it is what it is. The cards fall where they fall.
it is definitely not
Yeah,
out of the question. But
yeah.
Ryan, man, another great episode here on Side Draft Media. I wouldn't want to be doing it with anybody else, man. I appreciate everything you do behind the scenes and on the scenes. It's been
Thank you.
absolutely incredible ride this season. We've got 2 more races to go. We've got 2 more breakdowns to knock out of this season and playoffs. But man, I wouldn't rather be doing it with anyone else. To everybody listening, thank you so much. We appreciate it so much, and we look forward to so many more adventures moving forward. Then that includes the next 2 weekends, of course. Everybody here at Side Draft Media, thank you so much for listening. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ryan, we got a race weekend ahead of us, bud. Let's make it a
Yes,
good
sir.
one. Y'all have a great weekend.